Hello, church leaders and pastors, and welcome to the Healthy Church Summit. My name is Chris Bacon, and I have the privilege of serving as the CEO here at Ministry Brands. It's truly an honor to lead a company that shares my values and holds a remarkable position as the largest tech company serving the church. We take that responsibility seriously, and we're dedicated to building on our 40-year history of innovation and growth. Having started my career with the U.S. Navy, I know firsthand that having the right tools for the job is critical to accomplishing the mission. Our goal is to not only provide world-class software solutions for the church today, but to continue to innovate and build tools for the church of tomorrow. The commitment we have is strong because it's driven by the desire to see the church accomplish its mission and grow the kingdom. Given that we have so many team members that have served in ministry themselves, we understand the challenges you're facing as a leader. It's not easy, but it's worth it. We count it as a privilege to come alongside of you and serve as a partner as you serve on the front lines of ministry. The future is bright, and we're grateful for the role we get to play in your work and what you're doing. We hope today encourages you and helps you manage your time and resources better and continues the work we're committed to empowering healthy churches. Welcome to the Healthy Church Summit.
Well, welcome to the Healthy Church Summit Round 3. We are so glad that you are joining us. Here we go again,
We're
number
back.
3.
I know.
Man,
Here we are.
It is a jam-packed 60 minutes that we have together. We're so glad that you're here and joining us. Hey, if you're watching on YouTube, we'd love to invite you to go over to the website. Join us. It is an exceptional viewing experience.
Phenomenal.
Yes, it is going to be amazing. Make sure you come on over. And hey, listen, we want to know where you're tuning in from. So go ahead and let us know where you're joining us from, the church you serve at, your role. We would love to know that. Listen, we have a lot coming up.
So much. We're going to talk very fast.
Very fast. We are going to hear today from MacDonald, from Jenni, Catron. They're going to invest in you as church leaders. We're going to hear from Cary, Mayo about just all the innovation that's been going on with our product. And then, of course,
Giveaways. And there's a bunch. All right, so I'm going to read these because there are so many. iPad Pro, $500 Amazon gift card, Beats headphones, a Kindle, lunch for your entire team, and of course, free software.
Yes.
None of which we can win, but you can. So stay tuned. We are going to announce the winners at the end of the summit, right?
Yep,
All right,
yes.
so stay tuned.
Yeah, sad news is we can't win. The good news is you can, and we're so pumped for that. Listen, before we get going, I want to just pray for us, pray for our time together, ask the Lord just to be with us as we go through the next 60 minutes. So let's pray together. Father, we thank you for this opportunity to gather virtually. And Lord, I thank you so much for the people who are joining us, who are serving you, serving on the front lines of ministry, whether they are church leaders, church admin, pastors, staff, volunteers. We're just so thankful for the amount of churches represented here and the kingdom work that is happening. So would you just have your hand over this time? Would you bless our time together? And may it strengthen and encourage those who are watching this and ultimately lead to further kingdom work. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. Well, like I said, we are going to be jumping into a lot of different things, talking about some product innovation, but I want to actually follow up on something we shared about last time at the last summit. We talked about Donor Shield, which is one of many improvements, features, innovation that we've done with our giving platform, but it actually sprang into action recently. And if you missed it, Donor Shield just really helps to protect against any unforeseen disruptions.
Right. Outages, they happen.
With third parties. But what was awesome is it sprang into action. It protected $500,000.
That is a lot of dollars.
It's a lot of cheddar. And it protected it and safeguarded it so it could go into ministry. Isn't that awesome?
Entirely behind the scenes, right? So there's the appearance of zero interruption to all of that generosity coming to your churches. So thanks to giving enhancements like Donor Shield.
Yeah.
And we have a video about that, right? If you want to learn a little bit more.
Yep. Yeah. We'll put that in the chat for you to check out.
Well, and speaking of giving, we also just released in partnership with our friends at the Parable Group, the State of Church Giving Report for 2024. Tons of insights and research about generosity. So check that out as well. And thanks to our friends at the Parable Group.
Yeah. And also, we actually are going to, after the summit today, we're going to have a live demo for you to jump into. So certainly you can schedule one, get that on the calendar, or if you have 20, 30 minutes after this, you can jump into our live demo with one of our team members who's going to be kind of walking through all the things we've been working on. So listen, one of the things that we really value here is hearing from church leaders and hearing ways that our platform can continue to strengthen ministry. So we actually formed something called the Client Advisory Board, where we can hear directly from church leaders on ways that we can innovate on what we're creating to better serve those of you in ministry. Now, we actually got to sit down with a couple of our Client Advisory Board members recently and hear from them what it means to be on that board and the way that they are investing in what's next in what we create. So go ahead and take a look at this with us.
Yeah, so the goal of the Client Advisory Board is to establish a group of current clients who can provide insights and input into the technology needs of the current church.
I think this Client Advisory Board that I've been able to be a part of, it says to me, and I think it's sharing with others, that you value your customers. Not only do you value your customers, you value what they value. Which is not always the same thing.
I really truly believe we're a partnership together. We need to do this better, or we need to do that better, or whatever. And so being able to be singled out and pulled into a room with other individuals who are like-minded and have the want and the care to fix problems together, it's a big deal.
Well, just showing that they value the customer and value our input as customers and wanting to know that the product that they're putting in front of us is being utilized not only in the way that they intended, but in a way that makes sense and is helpful to us as customers.
To really hear the hearts and hear the stories about other ministries around the country. But more importantly, there's nothing that's too large or too small to discuss. So I see that there's a value not only of the software product, but it's also for kingdom building and for the ministry at large. Learning the fact that these are not individuals that just serve in corporate America, but they are part of their local church was probably one of the most impressive things.
The purpose is to listen. The main thing that we want to do is bring together individuals from a variety of church sizes, demographics, cultures, to really understand the entire, Big C church.
When I think about the impact that Ministry Brand software has made on our ministry, it has been remarkable because the continuity and making sure that things are flowing well. When you're able to see it all from one platform, it changes the entire trajectory of how your ministry will actually grow.
The impact of just a system that's designed to do what we do every day in ministry is fantastic. Just the pieces and parts that we're able to utilize that are geared to us, not geared to a restaurant or QuickBooks.
We have seen the opportunity, one, just to always have a snapshot of where we are when we're talking about attendance, giving, we're talking about communication. Even our guests, they let us know, yeah, I get your text messages, yeah, I get your emails, and they oftentimes say, don't stop sending them because it is making me feel connected to what's going on with your ministry.
One of the main reasons is your support staff. Is we are able to make a phone call and they're very knowledgeable. And even when we on this end don't know what we're talking about, but we still have a problem, we're still trying to solve the problem, they're able to try to help us figure that out.
For 40 plus years, the main driving factor in the changes in the technology that we develop comes from listening to our clients.
It's amazing when I think about how they are putting their money where their mouth is actually, and pulling us out and asking us to participate and asking our opinions and coveting our opinions makes a big deal difference.
Just that they're listening to us. They want to know that what they're working so hard on every day is helping us in ministry and in the kingdom.
They haven't ran from anything. They've embraced everything that we're bringing to the table, and we're learning how much more you guys are invested in what we do.
Making sure that the technology that we develop is serving a purpose and solving a problem in ministry, that's the goal, and that's the end game. That's what we hope to accomplish.
Man, well, Steve said that so well. Making software that is serving a purpose, solving problems in ministry, that is exactly what we're about. I love that.
And today we actually get to hear from one of our teammates who's leading the charge in developing those new products, our Director of Product Management, Cary Mayo. So Cary, welcome to the summit. Glad to have you here.
Yeah, really excited to be here.
Glad that you are here. We are excited to jump into getting to see some of this. I know we've talked about the work that you, your team have been doing in some of the innovations, so it's really exciting to show some of it. You know, one of the things I'd love if we could jump into, digital presence is so important for a church. That is often the front door where people are being able to connect, learn more, all of that. So can you just kind of give us an overview how in Ministry Brands Amplify we approach that, especially when it comes to websites and streaming?
Absolutely. I think one of the most important things when it comes to time savings and when it comes to making things most efficient for the church is not to have multiple platforms. So I want to introduce you to Amplify. This is an updated dashboard that we're getting ready to roll out. And what you'll notice here is Amplify has websites and streaming, people, app builder, service planning, and giving all built in because we're really all about trying to make things more efficient for the church. How do we bring more together and just make it intuitive and easy to use? So thinking about streaming and websites, one of the biggest crossovers there is the sermons. So when I'm on stage preaching and you know I get to the end of the sermon, I want that sermon to almost immediately be on the website. And with our services, we have that. So streaming and websites are built on the same platform. When I come into the system and I go to streaming and events, one of the things that you'll notice is all the fields that you can think of for categorizing and adding a sermon to a series, the keywords that are necessary for SEO, even the text down here at the bottom that's necessary for SEO. All of these things are already built into our streaming platform because as soon as this stream is done, it gets converted to a sermon.
I love it.
And as soon as the recording is encoded, it can be on your website just like that. And so it's a really powerful platform that allows the church to save time. I used to work on staff at a church, and I was responsible for making sure all of that happened. And the hours that it can take to download and upload multi-gigabyte files. Yeah. So this saves the church a ton of time. When I jump over here into the websites module, go to sermons, you'll just notice that immediately, as soon as the stream is done, it's going to show up here, and it's going to show up on your website sermon archive.
That is awesome. I love it.
I heard the word immediate, which does sound very fast.
Very fast.
Well, Cary, let's talk a little bit about integrations. What about other modules like our CHMS, our people, and giving? How does that all integrate with websites as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So our website technology is built on what we call ministry-focused content. Okay. We love ministry, and we know that there's certain content, and that includes sermons, small groups, events, your members and people. So from our people module, we have a sync process that once that's integrated, which it is in Amplify by default, your small groups can come over, your events can come over. You can choose the categories that you want to bring over to your website. So you have one place that you're handling creating groups, one place that you're creating events. And once that's all set up, it just flows automatically from one piece of software to the other and right to your congregation on your website.
Wow.
Well, Cary, one of the things I know can be a challenge, churches have multiple ministries, men's ministry, women's, youth, college, and sometimes they have their own unique needs and want their own kind of unique online presence. So how do we help with that in Ministry Brands Amplify?
Yeah, you may not have known, but I was on staff at a church, and I was responsible for managing all of our websites, including, or as well, I was also the pastor of our college and young adults group.
Okay.
So I'm very familiar with this scenario where a church has a really amazing website, but the high school pastor or the college pastor or the junior high pastor comes in and says, it's just not hip enough for us. We want something easier. We want something cool that's going to attract the youth. And so, with a lot of platforms, you're going to have to go build another website. But here within Amplify, you just come in here, you click Manage Sites.
Yep.
Click add a new website.
Okay.
Click I want easy, because you don't want the junior high guy to have to spend a lot of time in here. He probably doesn't have the experience. Maybe he does. So you click I want easy. You click continue. Choose a theme. So let's say they want a nice open theme. We'll choose Advent here. Give it a name. Let's see, college group. And click create website, and it's as easy as that. And then you send them an email and say, hey, your new website's ready. Go to town. The great thing about this is all of that ministry focused content that's built into the platform. So the sermons, the small groups, the events, that all stays within one content management system. But now it can go out to any one of these websites. And it's just a really amazing platform that's all about making it easier for the church to do the things the church needs to do to get that online presence up, and then go serve their community, serve their congregation.
I love it.
That did seem incredibly easy. Like, I feel like I could even do that.
Yeah.
Cary, thank you for explaining websites and showing all of this. I know that your team is working on tons of other innovations. Hopefully we'll bring those to the next summit. And hey, speaking of which, stay tuned. Remember that we have a live demo towards the end of the hour. You can see more of Ministry Brands Amplify websites, all the other tools that we're going to talk about. So stick around. You can schedule a call too, but schedule that live demo at the top of the hour.
Listen, we know too, when it comes to your digital presence, the tools are so important, like we just kind of walked through, but also what's important is the strategy behind what you're doing, why you're doing what you're doing. And so we're excited today to hear from Mark MacDonald. Mark is a veteran of the church communications world. He's been serving churches for decades and decades, helping them find the thread that runs through everything that they do, and then helping them be known for that. And he's coming today to share with us, to help us understand, how do we do that better? How do you do that better as you seek to engage your community and be known for something? So we're excited for Mark to teach us, to pour his wisdom out. So take a look at this. Well, Mark, thanks so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you for having me. This is such a great topic.
I'm excited. Let's jump right in. From your perspective, what do you think is the biggest problem in church communication today?
Wow. Now it's like in volleyball, lob the ball up and let me spike it. I mean, to me, in church communications today, sadly, the world just no longer knows what the church solves. And that's why so many congregations, I believe, struggle with growth. The church needs to become a recognized solution by actually telling people that and controlling that message. We're talking about digital presence, and that actually makes it harder. Well, and makes it easier. It's harder because Google and ChatGPT and Bard, all of the devices that we have and the applications that we have, well, they tend to solve most people's problems, and they do a really good job at it. So digital presence, though, also makes it easier because we can be a solution online to an enormous group of people, larger than, that we can usually do, the way we used to just reach people in our local community. And really digital presence, it somewhat is free access, but that's why we need to invest the marketing dollars that we used to have to spend, whether it's newspapers or, I'm going to date myself, yellow pages and, radio ads that the church used to do. Take those marketing dollars and invest them into digital branding, digital presence, and digital engagement. But in order to create all that content, though, I would just strongly urge everyone listening that you need to first figure out how the church is a solution for your audience.
Now, is that something that kind of applies to everyone? Is that a one size fits all answer, or do churches have different solutions? Do all churches have the same solution when it comes to this?
Well, wouldn't that be easy? It's like, let me prescribe that. Here it is, everybody. But weirdly enough, the church has started doing this a lot over the last few years. Most well, I shouldn't say most, a lot of local churches, they believe that, mission, vision, values, that message that I believe is just clearly from Scripture. They believe that that is the solution, but it really isn't. Instead, it's simply just, mission, vision, and values are fences that we put up in our ministries to define who we are as a local church. And it's incredibly internally focused. And so, we don't feel like a solution to an external audience, that unchurched audience. Instead, we need to take, that internal messaging, the vision, mission, and values. We have to convert it into something that our audience will actually perceive as a solution. And, the thing is that by doing that and helping people, convert that mission, vision, value into a thread so that people adopt it as a solution, that relies incredibly heavily on the audience. Just you need to know who they are.
Yeah. Well, I think that's really helpful. And I think it's a really helpful way for people to think about taking these things, like you said, mission, vision, values that are so important, but being able to communicate them in a way that, like you says, connects with the audience. Now, I do think it's important, though, to define that word audience. So are you talking about the congregation? Are you talking about people outside the walls? Like, can you help define that?
And like the answer to the last question, yes and no.
Yeah.
The congregation is your internal audience, those that mostly walk through our church doors and sit in the pews. But that's the audience that most research is showing is just in steady decline. So I would implore people not to focus on the internal audience. The external audience, the unchurched in the community, the people all around us. And I should probably add, and it's also the people in our digital presence. I mean, it's growing so much faster than any congregation.
Yeah.
So if we want to grow, we need to focus on them. Matthew 28:19. I mean, Jesus said, go and make disciples. Yeah. If we become known for something that's a solution to them, the community and your digital presence, then you'll start to grow internally. If you concentrate too much internally, you'll almost always go into decline and shrink. Imagine Jesus was right. We need to go.
Yeah.
Because your effective digital presence is your biblical digital evangelism.
That is really, really good. And I think it resonates so much. I know with me and with what I'm seeing from churches that are being really effective in reaching folks. I know you work with a ton of churches and have for many years. So from your vantage point as a communication church branding strategist, what keeps churches from doing all of this well?
That's a great question. And it really has to be a question that every ministry leader, every pastor needs to think through is if you have something that somebody needs and you're trying to get them to hear it, what are the barriers, and do whatever you can to remove those barriers. And weirdly enough, these barriers aren't unique to the church today. I mean, it affects all communications, secular and sacred. And it's, three things, but let's start with two things. So the first two things is it's noise and attention spans.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much noise outside of our church rooms in our world, but do I even have to say that our churches have become really noisy? And so oftentimes you say something and you wonder why they haven't heard it. It's because you're saying too many things. So when we think through noise, that's huge. Calm messaging, say less, people will actually listen more. Yeah. And they say that our digital devices and digital content is what's actually reducing our attention spans. So those attention spans, what we used to think we could hold somebody's attention for is just gotten smaller and smaller and smaller. And so there's noise and attention spans, but since we're talking to church leaders, something that is somewhat unique to this world, the church world, is that we better throw in perception because it's a huge barrier. It's what people think the church is versus the solution that we really are.
Yeah. Now, I know we're coming up on time here shortly, but I'd love if you could just kind of help churches understand how they can overcome some of those barriers that you just mentioned.
Okay, well, it's basically the process that I wrote in my book.
Yes.
It's hanging over my shoulder. It reminds me all the time. It's like, oh my goodness. So, I mean, it became a bestseller, and I think it's because, thousands of churches are using its principles just to be known for something relevant and needed. And it's the solution that we keep talking about. How do you come up with a solution, and then how do you communicate it effectively? And it really is all about discovering a thread. And that's that one simple, controlled idea that cuts through the noise. And it's short enough that even with those lower attention spans, that the audience will actually listen to it. The reason why they'll listen is because it connects to their needs, concerns, and goals.
Yep.
So they'll often say, when you've said your thread, tell me a little more about that, which is like the golden thing that every pastor wants to hear.
Yeah.
Where right now, most churches, they speak and their audience says, tell me a little less. I don't need to hear all of that.
Yeah.
Okay. So I challenged my team and myself, and I thought, okay, so what if we took the entire book and condensed it all down into one page? Talk about attention spans, right?
Yeah.
So what we did was we came up with a one-page guide, and it'll help every church become known for something. It just walks you step by step by step. It's basically everything that we do for a church. And I want to give it to everyone that's listening right now.
Yeah.
Now, that's hard to do. I would show up at all of your doors, but I can't. So it's all you have to do is just go to beknownforsomething.com/subscribe. So beknownforsomething.com/subscribe. And all you have to do is you have to fill out a form, and then at the bottom it'll say, what conference are you at, and make sure you choose Healthy Church. And so do that in the drop down, and then we'll email that to you. And really, it takes the entire book and it puts it all into one sheet. You follow it. You don't have to buy my book. You don't have to use us as consultants. We're going to lose our shirts, but I don't care. I want churches to figure out what their solution is.
Yeah. Well, and Mark, I know your heart is that very thing that you just said. And so appreciate your time today, bringing your expertise, your wisdom, what you're seeing as you're kind of knee deep working with churches, but also just so appreciate your heart too, and saying, hey, we want to resource and serve and bless. We are so thankful for you and for your time today.
Thank you so much for having me. I love the church, and I want the church to actually be heard in our communities again.
Man, I love Mark's heart for the church, and the guide that he mentioned that he and his team developed make this super easy for you. 2 options. QR code is going to take you right there, or below we have linked directly to his website. So first of all, if you're still on YouTube, pop over to the website because you will see that link there. Once you get there, just be sure to find that drop-down box for which conference you've come from. Healthy Church is right there, and that will give you access to that awesome guide. And hey, you don't have to be a pastor too. If you are on staff of any team membership, that guide is so helpful.
It's so helpful. We highly encourage you to grab that. We talked earlier about just the power of a one platform solution for the church. I know that Cary, we mentioned that as we were kind of talking through things with him. We actually were able to sit down with one of the churches that we are privileged to serve and hear from them how taking disparate systems, a lot of solutions for a lot of things, how that really helped to go from that to one platform solution, and the way that it impacted their ministry, their staff, the way that it's actually impacting their disciple making. Such an encouraging story. So go ahead and watch this with us.
So I like to say we're a 10-year-old church plant, right? We were planted in 2012, and here we are now in 2023. We've grown from about 4 people to about 600 people on average, and our community is one of the communities, like basically we have haves and have-nots, right? And so there's a big disparage between those two. Right here in our own little backyard, we have about 1/3 that would probably fall underneath the poverty level. Minorities, probably 2/3, right here in the local 1-mile radius. And so we've been very blessed by God to be able to minister to them in various ways through different ministries to kind of meet them right where they're at with the gospel.
One of the beautiful things that I love about Restoration is that I feel like we do ministry with kingdom-minded focus. We do things for our local body, but we're also very mission-oriented at going out into the community. Probably over the past 3 years have really focused in on excellence and what it means for us to be a church that is excellent and trusting God with the results, but at the same time pursuing that with a heart posture of humility because it does matter.
So as a young church, we probably did not have the best decision-making when it came to software platforms at the time. Very segmented Excel spreadsheets. We had this application for giving, this application for registration of events. It was just everywhere and nowhere all at the same time. So about 2 years ago, we kind of came to our senses and thought, all right, we're not doing this efficiently, right? And so we began to kind of evaluate different software platforms, different applications, and what we wanted to have was an integrated system to where if one person integrated one piece of data, it flowed to the various, whether it was giving, registration, events, whatever it was. And so we landed on this software platform, and it's been beautiful ever since.
If we're not able to track and truly walk with people personally, but even on the admin backside, it really makes a huge difference. And so I don't have a ton of experience for the previous, but when I walked in and this was the system that we had, it truly transformed how we operated as a staff.
With the integrated platform, we've been able to create efficiencies, right? And so now I don't have wasted time between myself and the staff or the staff amongst each other. The staff's able to kind of log in, they have their information, it's right there. It just creates a more efficient day and provides accurate information so that they can make timely, accurate decisions.
Kind of to the user in our congregation and even first-time guests with forms or whatever, they are so user-friendly. We don't have to worry about having to explain something to a first-time guest. I think that aids in the process of them filling out the card because we all know if things are complex, we kind of usually bow out, but with the simplicity, it kind of pushes them to stay engaged.
Would love to share a story about a guy named, let's call him Joe. And the reason we'll call him Joe is because he's a member of the Charleston SWAT team, right? So he and his family are far from God when they come to Restoration Community Church, right? So they fill out a first-time visitor card that goes into our system. We reach out to Joe. It begins a workflow behind the scenes. So he gets an email from me, a phone call from someone else, a follow-up email there. Fast forward, we're able to track Joe, communicate with Joe. Joe ends up receiving Christ as his Lord and Savior. Then Joe fills out a form to get baptized, right? And so that comes to us. We know that Joe's ready to make his next step. We engage with him. That creates a next step. Now we got Joe in the new members class. Now Joe is trying to lead his family to Jesus. This is a true story about practically how the staff was able to use software to minister to Joe effectively.
This platform really takes into account if you don't measure it, it doesn't matter. And we've been very good at measuring what God's given us. And I think it communicates that it matters to us and it matters to the Lord, and we're able to do it with excellence.
One thing I would say to other staffs and the leaders who are considering moving to a different platform or evaluating their technology is just the tremendous value add from a staff standpoint from a discipleship standpoint, and from a generosity standpoint. There is tremendous value in having one platform that integrates across all ministry levels and then is user-friendly for your congregation. This is kingdom work, right? And this is efficiency in the kingdom.
Man, Pastor Adam said that so well, and he's absolutely right. It is kingdom work that you are doing, and man, it just makes all the difference in the world when you have the right tools.
It does. The right tools, so important. Listen, we're going to dive into exploring some of those tools in a bit. Before we do, reminder, giveaways are coming up, so stay tuned. We're going to get to those shortly. We can't wait for those. Also, if you're over on YouTube watching this, come to the website. Come join us. It's a party. The water's warm. Let's all hang out, all right? We'd love to see you there. Now, hey, we're excited to have Cary back with us. We're going to dive into something, Cary, that I know has received a ton of investment from your team, but also that has like a little bit of a history behind it, which is our service planning module. So we start there? Can you give us just a little bit of the history?
Yeah, absolutely. So service planning, or worship planning as it's currently known, was actually founded by a guy who decided to volunteer for his church, sign up for the worship team in 2002. And in 2002, they were using Excel spreadsheets and all sorts of craziness to try to manage volunteer schedules. And he said, there's got to be a better way. So in 2003, over 20 years ago, he introduced worship planning to his church, and it has been in development ever since. Always growing, finding new ways to make planning services and planning, all of those different people that are serving at your church, making that easier and more efficient.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, again, you guys have worked so hard on this, so can we actually jump in?
Absolutely.
Let's see it. I'd love for you to just give us a little bit of a tour and jump into the module.
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing I want you to notice, it is right here in Amplify. Service planning is going to be the next module that we introduce. It's coming out really soon. And so all of the Amplify things that you get, the single sign-on, the ability to get from one module to another, the same look and feel. Speaking of look and feel, let me jump in and show you. It is Amplify. It looks like Amplify. It feels like Amplify. And it has everything that your church needs to manage your volunteers, to plan your services, and to make that a great experience, including the volunteer management portal here where a volunteer can accept assignments, decline assignments, let folks know what's going on, let them know in advance by marking themselves as unavailable or preferred services. And then we've revamped the way that events are scheduled. So we had a great user interface that we've been working on updating and bringing into 2024. And so everything here is meant to be as easy as possible. So get it right in front of the person who's scheduling the services. We've got Song Select integration, and we've got other great integrations with our own products that are really amazing.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of integrations, right? So when we're in multiple systems, our band might be in one system, but then the rest of our congregation is over in the CHMS. So can you talk about how those work together? Is that still a challenge, or does this kind of solve that problem?
It is a piece of cake. So, all of your volunteers, or most of your volunteers, are typically going to come in through your CHMS. Sure. They're going to fill out the I'm new here card, and then a few months later they may want to serve. Service planning makes that so easy, because even if they're not already built into the volunteer management, all I've got to do, I'm going to run over here to the schedules tab real quick. This is one of the easy ways to show it. But if I look at my people, so here I've got a couple of teams that I'm trying to fill out for an upcoming service, and I've only got Cary, Mayo, and Rick LeMance. Well, we certainly need more people than Cary and Rick,
band.
Although we can cover a lot of roles.
We could get by if we needed to.
Yeah, we could. One on the djembe, one on the guitar. We're
Great.
good.
Yeah.
So all I have to do is type in the name of somebody that I want to bring over, and it right here is going to search my people module. You'll notice that the CHMS results show up. I can choose them. I don't have to do anything special. I can take John and just drag him right over onto a team. It's going to bring him into the service platform in the back end. Then you can go and assign roles to him if you want, if you were just looking for him for one service. So it's really just as simple as that.
So easy.
I love it. Well, I know there's so much that you've put into it. We could keep going and going. But I know that there's more to come too. You guys have been working really hard on this, and so we're excited for it. Hey, just a reminder for you too, go ahead and sign up to get the demo, jump in. That is just going to start right after we're done here. And so you can see a little bit more, ask some more questions, and dive a little bit deeper. So we would love for you to join us for that demo.
And speaking of investment, we want this summit, to be an investment in you. We know how limited of a resource your time is, and yet the demands on your time continue to grow. So we are so excited to introduce founder and CEO of the Foresight Group, Jenni Catron, to help us learn how to be better managers of our time. Check this out.
Hey leaders, I'm Jenni Catron, founder and CEO of the Foresight Group. Today we're going to talk about prioritizing for greater effectiveness. Can anybody feel like they could be a bit more effective? How do you feel about all the urgent things coming at you? Does everything feel urgent, or every task feels like a priority, right? Like everything is important. So how do you prioritize when everything's a priority? That's the question we're going to dig into today. Because in a world filled with constant distractions and endless responsibilities, mastering priorities can seem both daunting and completely overwhelming. Managing your time is one of the most critical skills that you will develop as a leader. It absolutely is one of the most critical skills that you will develop. And it's important that you learn how to prioritize your responsibilities so that you can manage your time more effectively. And so we're going to talk about how do we prioritize for greater effectiveness. Now, before we get into that, I want to talk about some of the challenges to prioritizing. Right before we solve this, let's talk about just some of the things that are inhibiting us from prioritizing well. One of the big things that comes to mind is that endless to-do list. Anybody have one of those? Right? Like just that endless list of things that are constantly on your plate, the things that you need to do. And I think there's a bit of a subconscious thought that one day we'll get everything checked off. Does anybody relate to that? Right? Like you're just hoping someday I will cross everything off that list and it will feel amazing, kind of like inbox zero. But the reality is that there's always more coming. Most of us are in jobs where we are, managing projects or responsibilities or tasks that kind of have an ongoing nature to them. And so the endless to-do list is kind of our reality. So what it forces us to do is have to think more deliberately about how we prioritize that to-do list. Another one of the big challenges that we manage is other people's expectations. Now, they are really well-intentioned people, right? And some of their expectations are even fair. Your boss or your coworkers, your spouse, your friends, your kids, there are expectations that people have of you. And so you're always trying to navigate how we prioritize those. What gets your best energy? What gets your time? And so that's another one of those challenges that you're navigating. And then the third one that comes to mind for me is constant distractions, right? We live in a time where there are things, tools, devices that are at our fingertips all the time, and they're constantly bombarding us with messages. And so there are constantly things coming at you that you have to prioritize. You have to make decisions about how are you managing all of those distractions in order to stay focused on the most important things. So it's no wonder that this idea of prioritizing for greater effectiveness feels like such a great need for all of us. So I want to talk a bit about a concept that I think is really important to this idea, and it's the power of perspective. Now, when I was doing strategic planning training, one of the things that they really emphasized for us was that when you're working with a team, helping them think through a strategic plan, you need to force them to get perspective, to kind of zoom out and think about the bigger picture for a minute, because inevitably a team would come into a strategic planning session and they would have already some bias or some things that they think are the most important items for them to be working on in the coming year or few years, whatever the duration of time was. And so often the team would come in kind of preloaded with, we need to focus on this, this, and this. And what strategic planning experts will tell you is that you need to actually make sure you're zooming out and you're getting perspective, getting the broader picture so you can make a more informed decision about your greatest priorities. Because typically you've laser focused on something, but you might miss something that could have greater impact. And so the same is true for us in prioritizing our time, right? Of prioritizing the things that we need to do. Because of the urgency of that endless to-do list, other people's expectations, and those constant distractions, we hurriedly rush to the next thing, right? We hurriedly rush from action to action rather than getting perspective on what's really important and what we really need to give our best time and energy to. And so I want to give you a tool today that I believe will help you really determine what are my greatest priorities? How do I get perspective on my greatest priorities? Now, this tool is one that I have used for a number of years with a lot of the coaching clients that I've worked with through the years. I do it myself about every 6 months. I do this exercise to help me get perspective on my priorities. So here is, I've got 3 columns on my whiteboard here. And I actually want you to go ahead and I want you to draw this with me because I'm going to have you do this exercise because, again, I think it's one of the most helpful tools we can use to get perspective on our priorities. So here's what's happening here. There's 3 columns, and in this first column, I want you to list the things that only you can do. These are those biggest priorities, those things that are fundamental for you to do. This is the core priorities of your role, your highest and best contribution to the organization, okay? This second column are the things that you do, but you could delegate them. Now, maybe it's not clear right now where you could delegate them, but there are things that like, I do them, but I see them eventually moving off my plate. Maybe not right this instant, but I've got my eye on it. Like there's things I'd love to move on at some point. And then the third column are the things that you must delegate. I call this the cringe list. This is the stuff that if we were sitting down together and I was doing this audit of your time with you to help you look at your priorities, you would be a little embarrassed to tell me you do this stuff. So let me give you some examples. For myself, there's some administrative stuff that I do that I really shouldn't be doing. I have team members who can do it. And it's not the best use of my time. It's not that I'm not willing, able, capable, or have a heart to do any of it. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about a stewardship of your time. There's some stuff related to my travel that I still do, but I really should be delegating that. And here's why. Because the things that only I can do as leader of Foresight are things like the vision. I need to set the vision and the direction of where we're going and what we're doing. I need to set some of our high-level goals to help everybody know what we're working on and why we're focused on those things, right? I'm currently writing a book. Well, I've got to write the book. And the team needs me to do that writing so that we can keep building out the work that we're doing. And so these are my highest and best contributions. But when I'm getting time and energy over here, I'm taking time from these things. And so another example here of like something that I do, but I could delegate would be like our strategic planning. Currently, I do a little bit of it, and then one of my other team members does some of it as well. But eventually, I could probably give all of that away. So this gives you an idea of some of the types of things that live in these columns. And you're looking at this and you're going, oh, okay, duh, there's stuff here clearly that I need to do. But oftentimes when we feel that overwhelm and everything feels urgent, it's because we're giving a lot of time and attention to one of these 2 things. So I want you to do 3 things as an action step from this conversation. I want you to do this exercise. Take 15, 30 minutes and just map this out. Get your to-do list and then plot all of those things on in these 3 columns to help you get perspective of what is where. What are the things that only you can do, right? So commit to your only list. What are the things that are your highest and best contribution, the things that you need to contribute to because it's going to be the best use of your gifts and the best use of your time. And then evaluate your delegate list because there are likely some things here that you really need to give away. Now, as you're thinking about that, you might have some internal objections, right? This is where we've got to get a bit honest with ourselves about why are we holding on to some of the things we tend to hold on to. Do you keep it just because it's easier to do it yourself? That might be true. Do you not delegate because you don't really trust others to do it quite as well as you would? That's honest. Do you not delegate because you simply don't feel like you have the time, right? So, gosh, I don't really have the time to train another person, so I just keep doing it. Well, eventually, and usually very quickly, you're spending more time just doing it yourself than it would have taken to train somebody else, right? Do you not delegate because you secretly kind of enjoy the feeling of doing some of the stuff on this list? right? Sometimes that's just satisfying, like stuff that's kind of easy for you to do and you can cross it off really quickly. So we've got to get honest with ourselves about why you hold on to some of these things, especially in this list. Now, another way we can delegate is by using technology better. This one is a big one, you guys. There are so many great tools that you can use to essentially delegate some things or at least expedite them. So for example, I have an amazing executive assistant. She does all of my scheduling, but she still uses some of the scheduling apps because they accelerate her time. There are ways for her to do the scheduling quicker that creates more margin for me to give her more things. And so there are so many productivity apps and great tools out there that I would encourage you, make sure you are maximizing those, because some of these things here can actually get sped up, can get expedited by using technology. And then the third thing that I would say on this is consider volunteers or interns. There may be people who would love to be more involved in your work and they just need to know that there's an opportunity. So again, this must delegate list is a great starting point for a volunteer or an intern position profile. And just see who might be interested in partnering up to help take some things off your plate. Now, here's what I want you to hear in all of this. Prioritizing your time is really an exercise in protecting your energy. Prioritizing your time is really an exercise in protecting your energy. We need leaders with great energy, because when you're overwhelmed, you lack energy and you lack focus. That impacts your mood, which in turn impacts your motivation, doesn't it? And when everything is a priority, nothing is, and you are overwhelmed. So you have to take a proactive approach to your priorities in order to contribute at your best. So friends, I want you to just take a few minutes this week, map this out, create these lists, think about how can you take some time to really focus on these things that are on your only list, and then determine what can you delegate. And I can't wait to see how this tool starts to give you perspective that helps you really prioritize for greater effectiveness in the season ahead. So keep leading well, friends, and I'm glad to be on the journey with you.
Well, what an awesome challenge from Jenni. I love that. I love that question. How do you prioritize for greater effectiveness in the season ahead? We'll just encourage you, spend some time thinking about that. Spend some time doing the exercise that Jenni walked through. It's so helpful. And also, Jenni and her team created an amazing resource for you. They created a trust checklist. And really, this is a way to kind of go through and see the things that maybe you're not aware of that are actually diminishing trust on your team, that are hurting your leadership, and things that you want to gain that awareness of. And so scan the QR code. We also have a link here on the website. One more call from YouTube. Come on over to the website. We'd love to have you here. But go ahead, download that guide. It's just going to be so helpful for you.
We've mentioned a lot of resources too. So just a quick reminder, everyone that's attended today will get an email linking to every single thing. So don't panic. We've thrown a lot at you, a lot of really good things, but you will get a summary of all this in your inbox.
Yeah, absolutely. All right.
Is it time?
It's time.
My favorite part.
Giveaways. We are so excited for these giveaways. Now listen, one thing that we did last time that was super fun, we actually revealed these on our social media platforms. We have communities that are continuing to grow there. We'd love for you to be a part of it. So if you go right now to our Instagram or our Facebook, you will be able to see who has won those giveaways. It could be you. So scan the QR code.
But there's a lot of them. So keep scrolling. Like, look for your name.
Yeah, look for your name. Go ahead and head there right now. While you're there, click follow, couple likes.
Share it with a friend.
Yeah, family, loved ones, whatever.
Total strangers.
Whoever you want to send it to. Yeah, but go ahead to our social platforms right now. We've shared the giveaways, and we're so excited to give those things away to those of you serving in ministry. And listen, also, if you have the time, we're going to be starting our live demo.
Right now.
Right now.
Or in 5 seconds.
Yeah, well, we'll give you a minute
Almost
or two.
right now.
But it is coming up. So go ahead and you can sign up for that. You'll get a link. You can jump write in so you can ask your questions. I know they're probably top of mind.
Yeah.
So go ahead, join us there, and we hope to see you there. And we're so glad for the time that we've had together today. We hope that it's been helpful. We hope it's encouraged you. And really, we hope that the things that we're working on continue to better equip and empower healthy churches and strengthen your ministry. So thanks for being with us. We'll be back together in June. And so we will share those dates soon. You might as well just block the whole month.
You're going to want to save the whole month.
Yeah, block it out. We'll let you know the dates. Then you can kind of schedule from there. But no, we can't wait for the next one. We're grateful for you, and we'll see you next time.